Dear viewers, Khamenei is dead and the world is on fire. The missiles hit at night. Tehran was asleep. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was meeting his inner circle. Minutes later, the compound was rubble. Washington and Tel Aviv called it decisive, surgical, preemptive. Let's call it what it is, a regime decapitation strike. And here is the part nobody wants you to sit with. According to a Reuters report from 2nd March 2026, that is today, citing Pentagon briefings to Congress, there was no concrete evidence Iran was about to launch an attack. No mobilized units, no launch prep, no intercepted orders. Yet, the missiles from allies flew anyway. So if there was no imminent threat, what exactly was being preempted? I will explain. Hello, I'm Tejas and you're watching Honest Take on Lokmat Times. In this video, let's expose how world powers keep dragging the entire world into fresh chaos again and again. But before that, please subscribe to Lokmat Times if you haven't already and press the bell icon to never miss an update. The US and Israel attacking Iran looks eerily similar to other wars in the past 3 decades. This script feels familiar. In 2003, George W. Bush stood before the world and talked about weapons of mass destruction, stockpiles, mobile labs, uranium deals, an existential threat. None of it was real. The invasion happened anyway. Iraq collapsed. Sectarian war exploded. Out of the ashes came Islamic State, ISIS. Hundreds of thousands died. Trillions burnt. The region still hasn't recovered. Now fast forward to today. The language is different. Nuclear breakout timelines, days away, existential threat, preemptive self-defense. But the choreography is very identical. Trump and Netanyahu released synchronized video statements within hours of the strike. Missiles, proxies, ICBMs, Iran on the brink. Meanwhile, the Pentagon briefing tells a different story. No imminent attack. So let's be blunt, this was not about stopping a missile already in the air. It was about reshaping a region. Listen carefully to what was said after the strike. Trump urged Iranians to rise up. Netanyahu spoke of brave Iranians taking control of their destiny. That is not deterrence language. That is regime change language. And here is the problem. Assassinating a sitting supreme leader isn't a defensive strategy. It is escalation of the highest order. You don't decapitate a government and expect calm. You don't bomb a power center and get moderation back. History says the opposite. External attacks don't fracture regimes, they consolidate them. Hardliners get stronger, moderates go quiet, internal dissent turns into nationalist fury. The strike was meant to weaken Tehran. It may have done the opposite. Let's widen the lens. Iraq, sold on WMD lies, result a broken state, sectarian war, ISIS. Afghanistan, 20 years, trillions spent, thousands of lives spent. In 2021, the Taliban walked back into Kabul and US forces left. 2 decades of war and we ended up exactly where we started. Libya, regime change in 2011, Gaddafi gone. What followed? Militias, slave markets, a country split between rival governments that still haven't unified. This is not ancient history. It's a pattern. Intervene, remove leadership, promise democracy, and then leave behind fragmentation. Now the same logic is being applied to Iran, a country far more powerful, far more networked and far more capable of hitting back than any of the above. This isn't stabilization, it is serial destabilization with a new postcode. But Iran is not Iraq in 2003. It has proxies across the region, missile capability, naval leverage over the Strait of Hormuz, influence from Lebanon to Yemen. You remove its supreme leader and assume the system crumbles. But what if it doesn't? What if the Revolutionary Guards tightens its grip? What if hardliners decide negotiation is permanently off the table? What if retaliation turns asymmetric and unpredictable? Oil markets are already shaking. Shipping lanes are tense. Red Sea routes face fresh threats. European intelligence agencies are watching for covert retaliation. The knock-on effects, energy shocks, embassy attacks, proxy escalation, don't come with a containment plan. Preemption is easy to announce. Consequences are hard to control. Supporters of the strike say Iran was racing towards a bomb, that this was necessary to stop nuclear breakout. Netanyahu has been saying Iran is days away from building a bomb for years if not decades, and yet intelligence assessments have been debating timelines for years. Enrichment capability is not as same as weaponization, and even during the Cold War when both superpowers had thousands of warheads pointed at each other, leadership assassination was considered off limits precisely because everyone understood escalation ladders. Kill a head of a state in a nuclear-capable country and you don't just remove a threat, you remove guardrails. You don't turn a chessboard into a bar fight and expect to walk away clean. Now let's come home. India. Liberals and left want Modi government to condemn Khamenei's killing. The right is celebrating the killing. But our diplomacy is neither black nor white at this moment. People are invoking Nehru's non-alignment movement, asking center to condemn the attacks by imperialist US and Israel. However, under PM Modi, India has built a careful balancing act. Strategic ties with Washington, deepening defense links with Israel, energy relationships across the Gulf, and historical connections with Iran. It worked when tensions simmered. It gets a lot harder when the region is on fire. India imports energy from West Asia. Millions of its citizens work in Gulf states. Remittances flow back in enormous volumes. Shipping lane stability isn't abstract, it is economic oxygen for India. Multi-alignment is a smart strategy when great powers compete quietly. It becomes a minefield when they start taking out each other's heads of states with precision strikes. If this escalates into sustained confrontation, India's carefully worded neutrality will face pressure that diplomatic language alone cannot absorb. Eventually, India will have to pick sides, and currently we are being seen tilting towards the allies. Why? Because they seem the most powerful option right now. But let's come to the moral hypocrisy of these powerful nations. International law gets invoked when it is convenient and set aside when it isn't. When Russia invades Ukraine, it is aggression. When the US and Israel strike Iran without clear imminent threat, it is preemption. When adversaries assassinate leaders, it is terrorism. When allies do it, it is strategic necessity. This double standard doesn't just look bad, it destroys norms, and once norms erode, every regional power feels justified to act first and explain later. That's how international order unravels, not in one dramatic collapse, but through a series of escalating exceptions that each side points to when justifying the next one. Now, important question, will this actually weaken Iran? This is the central gamble. What is the theory? Remove Khamenei, fracture the regime, trigger an uprising from within. The reality, if history is any guide, is far messier. Nationalism is powerful. External attack tends to unify divided societies, not splinter them. Even people who despise the regime may close ranks when foreign missiles are falling on their capital. Look at Iraq, look at Afghanistan, look at Libya. Regime change sounds clean in a press conference. On the ground, it is vacuum, militias, proxy wars, and conflicts that outlast every optimistic timeline. This has pushed the world to the edge. Europe is watching for spillover. Gulf states are bracing. Oil traders are tracking every naval movement. Militias are recalibrating. And in Tehran, a new leadership circle is forming. Harder, angrier, and less inclined toward anything resembling negotiation. The brutal irony is this: if the objective was to prevent war, this may have expanded it. If the objective was deterrence, this may have raised it. If the objective was stability, this may have shattered it. So here is my honest take. Great powers tend to convince themselves they are shaping history, that they are controlling outcomes, that a surgical strike creates a clean future. History disagrees. Iraq was supposed to be swift and transformative. It became a generational wound. Afghanistan was supposed to be the war that ended terror. It ended with the Taliban back in power. Libya was supposed to protect civilians. It fractured a state that still hasn't healed. Now Iran's supreme leader is dead, and the world is holding its breath. Because when missiles replace diplomacy, when regime change becomes routine, when intelligence doubts get brushed aside for strategic theater, the consequences don't respect borders. Not in West Asia, not in Europe, not in India. This isn't strength, it is escalation dressed up as certainty. And we have seen how that story ends. And that is your honest take.